The letter that changed everything. The wind howled across the empty Montana plains, brushing through the wild grass like the soft touch of a mother's hand. Evelyn sat by the window of her small Boston boarding house, staring at the clouds rolling in from the west. Her fingers trembled slightly as she held the folded letter that had arrived 2 weeks earlier. She had read it 100 times. The penmanship was rugged but careful. Miss Evelyn Hartford. My name is Jonathan Miller. I am a settler in Bridger's Fork, Montana Territory. I am looking for a decent, God-fearing woman to share this life with. I have land, cattle, and a heart that longs for warmth. If you seek a home, I offer mine. Respectfully, Jonathan Miller. Her heart had leapt at the offer. A mail-order bride. A new beginning. A chance at the life she never dared dream of, far from the pitted stares and whispered comments about her skin. Evelyn was born with vitiligo. The pale, irregular patches that marred her otherwise chestnut-toned skin had invited cruel remarks since she was a girl. Patchy, children would taunt. Marked by the moon, whispered gossiping women. Suitors had always looked past her, as though her skin rendered her invisible. But Jonathan's letter didn't mention beauty or perfection. It spoke of home and warmth. She had written back, "Dear Mr. Miller, I am not a woman of great beauty, but I can offer kindness, dedication, and a sincere heart. If you would still have me, I will come." He replied within 2 weeks. Come. A sincere heart is worth more than gold. And so, Evelyn packed her meager belongings, sewing a lace collar onto her one good dress and borrowing a neighbor's bonnet. She boarded a westbound train with her savings, nervousness coiling in her belly. The journey to Montana was long, cold, and filled with curious stares. Other women traveling west had flowers in their bonnets and smooth faces. Evelyn kept her gloves on, even in sleep, to hide the marks on her hands. By the time she arrived in Bridger's Fork, dust-caked and bone-tired, the sun was dipping behind the snow-capped mountains. She stepped down onto the platform, clutching her small bag. Men with flannel shirts and sunburnt faces passed by, greeting one another. Then, a tall man in a weather-worn coat approached. His beard was thick, his eyes a pale blue that seemed to catch the last rays of sunlight. "Evelyn Hartford?" he asked, removing his hat. "Yes," she said softly. He smiled tightly. "I'm Jonathan." Her heart skipped. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Miller." He nodded, his eyes scanning her face, lingering on the edge of her cheek where her bonnet couldn't hide the pale skin. "Let's get you to the wagon," he said. They didn't speak much as they traveled to his homestead. The land was vast, framed by rolling hills and pine trees. Chickens clucked in a pen. A dog barked once from the porch. Inside the modest cabin, she found a small fire crackling and a stew pot bubbling. Jonathan gestured toward a chair. "You must be hungry." "Yes, thank you," she said. Her stomach was tight with nerves. As she removed her gloves to eat, Jonathan's eyes caught the patchy skin on her fingers. He paused. She saw it, the flicker of surprise, maybe even discomfort. "I should have told you," she whispered, lowering her gaze. "About my skin." He didn't respond right away. When he did, it was soft. "It's all right. It just caught me off guard, is all." The next few days passed with an aching quietness. Jonathan was courteous, but distant. Evelyn cooked, swept, helped in the garden. He thanked her each time, but his eyes never truly met hers again. One morning, a knock came at the door. It was Henry Porter, a neighboring rancher, and his wife May. Friendly folk. Evelyn prepared tea while May whispered to her kindly, "You're far from Boston, dear. Adjusting all right?" "I suppose so," Evelyn replied with a polite smile. Later, as the guests left, Evelyn overheard Henry say to Jonathan outside, "She's got a good spirit, even if she's a little unusual looking." Unusual. That night, Evelyn sat on the porch, watching the stars. Jonathan joined her, but said nothing for a long time. "You're quiet," she finally said. I didn't expect," he trailed off. "You didn't expect my skin," she finished for him, bitterly. He looked at her then, really looked. "No, I didn't. But I asked for a kind, honest woman. And I got one." Tears prickled behind her eyes. "Then why does it feel like you're regretting it?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. The firelight from inside danced across her face, casting her mottled skin in gold and shadow. "I'm sorry," he said. "I think I just need time." Evelyn nodded, her heart hollowing. She went to bed alone, tears soaking her pillow. She had come across the country for a chance at a life, but she couldn't change the one thing people always saw first: beauty beyond the skin. The days blurred into one another: meals, chores, evenings spent in silence. Jonathan was never unkind, but Evelyn could feel the barrier between them, like a pane of glass she couldn't break through. He helped her lift water buckets, repaired the broken latch on her window, and said "thank you" each time she folded his shirts or served supper. But he never truly saw her. Evelyn told herself it didn't matter, that she hadn't come here for love. She had come for shelter, purpose, a life. Still, when she lay down at night and heard the rustling of Jonathan's blankets in the next room, her chest ached with a quiet sorrow. One afternoon, as she knelt in the garden pulling weeds, a girl's voice called out, "Hi there." Startled, Evelyn looked up to see a little girl, freckled, maybe 7 or 8, standing at the fence with a wide grin. Behind her stood a tall, sun-baked man with a straw hat and a gentle smile. "I'm Clara." "That's my papa," she said proudly, pointing. "We live over yonder. Mama said I could bring you this." She held out a bundle wrapped in cloth. Warm apple bread. It scent delicious and sweet. Evelyn wiped her hands and accepted it. "That's very kind, Clara." "Thank you." Jonathan appeared then, walking from the barn, his brow furrowed slightly at the sight of the visitors. "Jonathan," said the man, tipping his hat. "Tom Avery, Clara's pa. I figured it was time we properly welcomed your new bride." Jonathan nodded politely. "Appreciate it." Tom's gaze drifted toward Evelyn. He smiled and held out his hand. "Ma'am." She hesitated for a heartbeat, then offered hers. His hand was calloused but warm. He didn't flinch at her skin. Didn't even blink. "Pleasure's mine," she said softly. That evening, Jonathan was quieter than usual. Evelyn set the table and sliced the apple bread. He didn't touch it. "Tom Avery seems like a decent man," she said, trying to fill the silence. "He's kind to everyone," Jonathan muttered. "Not picky, that one." Evelyn's knife paused on the bread. She set it down slowly. "I see," she said, voice tight. "You think kindness is something people give out of pity." Jonathan looked up sharply. "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it is. You think people are only nice to me because they feel sorry for the way I look." He didn't deny it. Evelyn stood, chair scraping the floor. "I won't apologize for how I was born. I won't be ashamed of it, either." She walked to the door and stepped outside. The air was cool, the sky turning dusky violet. She sat on the porch steps and stared at the hills. Moments later, Jonathan's footsteps sounded behind her. He sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "I was wrong," he said quietly. Evelyn didn't reply. "I thought I wanted someone simple. Someone who could keep house and cook meals. But you're more than that. You've got courage I never had. You crossed a country, knowing full well that people might look at you and judge. I can't even look past my own foolish pride." The wind tugged her hair gently. "When you first stepped off that train," he continued, "I saw your skin and I hesitated. But I've seen more since then. I've seen how you hum to the hens when you feed them. How you mend my coat without being asked. How you cry quietly at night, thinking I don't notice." She turned to him, surprised. "I see you, Evelyn. I just took too long to open my eyes." She looked away, blinking fast. "My mother," she whispered, "used to say my skin looked like God painted me with patches of moonlight. She told me I was made unique for a reason. But the world didn't see it that way." Jonathan reached out, slowly, and took her hand. "I see it now." His fingers brushed hers, gently. He traced the pale patches without fear or hesitation. "I'm sorry I made you feel less than you are. Truth is, I've never met a woman like you. She looked into his eyes, searching for doubt or discomfort. There was none. Only quiet sincerity. Do you really mean that? She asked. I do. They sat in silence, the sky above filled with stars. The hurt between them, once wide as the plains, now felt small enough to cross. Weeks passed, and something shifted. Jonathan smiled more. He began asking her about her childhood, her favorite books. They laughed together over burnt bread, worked side by side fixing the barn roof. One morning, he returned from town with a small box. Inside was a silver hairpin, shaped like a crescent moon. For your hair, he said, almost shyly. Like the light you carry. Tears welled in her eyes. I love it, she whispered. They stood close, no longer two strangers forced together by circumstance, but something else. Something blooming. Months later, Clara visited again, tugging on Evelyn's apron. You look real pretty today, she said. Evelyn smiled. Thank you, sweetheart. Jonathan passed by, brushing her arm with his fingers, his eyes full of quiet admiration. No shame. No pity. Just love. Evelyn had once feared she'd be forever defined by what people saw on the surface. But now she knew, true beauty lived in the heart that kept loving, even after being broken. And someone had finally seen hers.